This Sunday is January 14th, and we celebrate the second Sunday of Ordinary Time. Ordinary does not mean not extraordinary. It comes from the Latin ordinal, meaning to count. So we begin counting our Sundays. We begin counting the many ways that Christ comes to save us. You might ask, what is the first Sunday of Ordinary Time? Normally that Sunday is the baptism of the Lord. This is a different year because the baptism of the Lord was moved to a Monday because Epiphany fell on January 7th, a small detail about the church year. On this second Sunday of the Ordinary Time, we have left the season of Christmas, and we hear the great gospel where John the Baptist points out Jesus to his disciples. John was very popular. He had many disciples following him, and John came to say, "It's not about me." And he points and he says, "Behold the Lamb of God." Right away, John uses that title. I think as Catholics, we're used to the phrase Lamb of God because we sing it at Mass during the fraction rite as we break the Blessed Sacrament. Lamb of God is important to know that this comes from the Jewish tradition of sacrificing lambs in the temple. In short, people would bring an animal or a lamb and they would sacrifice it on an altar done by a Jewish priest. And in a sense, it was to say, God, we've done this for you, now would you do something for us? Kind of a way of relating with God. Well, Jesus came to turn that around. Now, Jesus says, the sacrifice I desire is not animals, not blood, but the sacrifice of your heart and your life. And in order to prove it, Jesus himself became the sacrifice. He became the lamb when he died on the altar of his cross. And in a sense, that's God crawling upon the altar, dying for us and saying, I'm doing this for you. Now, what are you going to do for me? So in a sense, God is the one who does the sacrifice. God is the one who does the difficult work. And our job simply is to respond to his great love. Also today, we hear the great invitation when the disciples are walking behind Jesus. He turns to them and he says, what do you want? What do you seek? That's a great question to ponder. If Jesus asked you, what do you want in your relationship with me? What would your response be? And then the disciples said, we just want to know where you live. We want to know more about you. And Jesus gives the great invitation, come and see. What would it be like for you to come and see who is Christ and where he lives? That invitation is open to any of us, any of the time. A very small detail, the English translation says that it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon when this happened, and that the disciples stayed with him all night. The actual Greek says that this happened at the 10th hour. The 10th hour is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. St. Augustine says that that 10th hour is important because it, in a sense, stands for the 10 Commandments, the Jewish law. And now Jesus says, I have come to fulfill the law, not to get rid of it, but to fulfill it. So come and see me and live with me, find out who I am, then you too will be fulfilled.